Last week I uploaded the first episode of a mini-series where we'll be growing different types of cactus seeds in small containers. San Pedro, Bolivian Torch, Peruvian Torch, Peyote and others. Today is the first update and we're going to take a look at the plants 8 days after they were sown. I'm starting by opening the transparent film which wraps the entire grow. I placed this film in order to avoid losing too much heat from the heating mat, but you can perfectly do without any film. As you can see, I'm not ripping the whole thing apart. Instead, I'm just cutting an opening into it so that I can just quickly reseal it with some more film afterwards. I'm doing that because wrapping the entire thing up was actually quite a bit of work. Alright, let's reach for the first container and open it. These are Bridgesii or Bolivian torches. I can see that about 15 of them have come up. I planted 40 seeds. I expect these seeds to have a better germination rate than that, so my guess is that more of them are going to come up in the next few days. I will count them next time I do an update on the plants, but right now that would be too early. If you look close, you can see all the plants still wear the seed shells over their tips, and the roots can be seen. You can also see that the tips of the plants at this early stage are made of 2 horns. That's common to all Trichocereus plants, but you don't get that with peyotes. In this other container, I've sown some Trichocereus Peruvianus seeds, also known as Peruvian Torch. These are really old seeds I've tried to revive using the technique I've shown in one of my videos. In the past, I've had success reviving them. This time, however, none of the 250 seeds that were in this container have come up. It could be that they are really starting to be too old, or that it takes them longer to germinate, or that the soil was not humid enough for this container. So I will check back on them in about 2 weeks to see if things have changed. Here you can actually see some life through the plastic. Looking good. These are also Trichocereus Bridgesii, actually from the same exact batch as the first container I opened. So not surprisingly, we get a similar germination rate so far. To the untrained eye, it may not always be easy to differentiate between mold and roots. When the roots are up in the air trying to reach for the soil surface, you know these are roots and not mold. They look a bit like an umbrella, whose center is the base of the plant. However, on other plants where roots have already come into contact with the soil, you don't have that umbrella look, and the roots can resemble a little bit that dreaded white mold, looking somewhat similar to a spider web. If you suspect something to be mold, and it only comes out of the base, it's most likely just the roots. If that fuzzy stuff covers the entire plant, then you know it's mold. Here we have a cross between Atacamensis and Pachanoi, Pachanoi being of course San Pedro. Atacamensis is one of the fat Trichocereus. It has a diameter that is twice as big as Pachanoi and many more ribs. Atacamensis is also a sacred cactus and a fairly unusual one to encounter. It's the first time that I grow these seeds, and I'm quite curious as to what these hybrids will look like. Most likely they will look like a mix between the 2 parents, but with more characteristics from the Atacamensis, since it's the one that made the seeds. By the way, these seeds were very tiny in size, but that doesn't mean they are not viable. If all the seeds in a fruit are tiny, then most likely it's just the way they are for that particular strain or species. On the other hand, if you have another batch of seeds where the seeds are bigger apart from a few of them that are tiny, these tiny ones are likely to be less viable. So basically, don't worry if you get tiny seeds as long as all of them are tiny, then they should be viable. These are peyote seeds that my dad gave me. He grows some peyotes, but it doesn't do anything with the seeds. Only a couple of plants have come up. There should be more, hopefully next time I check. Here we should have peyotes. I bought these from a dealer. It's the first time I buy from this guy. In theory, I have high hopes as he collects the seeds himself from his own plants, but so far nothing. Here again, I'll check back on them at a later time. It could be that I did not wet the soil enough. Or sometimes, for some reason, seeds can take longer than usual to germinate. That could be because of the way the seeds were stored, I don't know. Next, these are some Taquimbalensis seeds. The Trichocereus Taquimbalensis is a really beautiful sacred cactus, in my opinion. It has some absolutely fierce spines, very thick, very nice looking spines. I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys grow. Now for some reason these peyotes have already come up, and there are many of them. What's more, some of them are quite large, which means they already germinated a few days ago. Strangely enough, out of all the peyote seeds I've sown, these are the ones which should have given the poorer results, as I know these don't have a very good germination rate. They come from a well-known German seed distributor, the only one that I know of that sells peyote seeds in large wholesale quantities, and for that reason, their seeds are resold by a lot of dealers around the world. However, they don't have a great germination rate. But once again, no point in counting plants and drawing conclusions until the next video when more seeds will have germinated. Quite frankly, I think I might have goofed with this grow, not having enough humidity in the soil in some of the containers. To be able to properly compare germination rate, I should have prepared the soil all in one go for all of the 24 containers. Like this, the level of humidity in the soil would have been consistent in all the containers. Instead, I prepared the soil for a few containers at a time, which means they will have unequal levels of humidity, and as is, you can't really compare germination rate between different containers. Calculating germination rates and comparing them will be interesting and will teach us things, but it should not be considered definitive due to this inconsistent level of humidity. If this mini-series is a success, then it will be followed by others, and I will improve my methodology as I go along. By the way, you can see on these images how the peyotes are roundly shaped as freshly born seedlings. They don't have the two horns that we saw earlier on the Trichocereus babies. Here are some Knuthianus seeds. Knuthianus is an amazing looking Trichocereus with a distinctive knobbly profile, and the plant that gave these seeds looks absolutely fantastic, with unusually long spines for a Knuthianus. These are open pollinated seeds. But since this cactus was surrounded by other Knuthianus adult plants, it's possible that they may be pure Knuthianus. For them to be pure, it would have to be a Knuthianus flower receiving Knuthianus pollen. But since it's open pollinated, it could also be an hybrid between Knuthianus and another species of Trichocereus, which is possible as there were some in the vicinity. Only time will tell. If these plants, once they are adults, look exactly like their mother, well, then you will know the genetics are pure Knuthianus. And you will know that the flower was not pollinated with another species. There are other types of seeds in there, but a quick look from the outside showed no green whatsoever. Hopefully there will be more signs of life in the next video. And if some of the containers remain blank, then I will show you a way to try and bring them to life. I will now seal them back up in film, but in the next update I will most likely get rid of that film, as the room temperature in the daytime is now starting to be very close to the perfect temperature for germination, so I won't be needing the heating mat anymore. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you subscribe and tick the little bell to get notified about the next video update in this series. It will probably be in 10 days or 2 weeks, whenever I cannot resist the urge to check on them. Lastly, if you are currently growing cactus from seeds, please let us know how you're doing with your project in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys again very soon.